Are you looking to buy some sim racing equipment and you are budget conscious? This video is exactly for you. Today's topic will cover equipment starting from prices for the budget conscious to roughly mid-tier prices, comprising of wheels, pedals, wheel stands, and rims. The video won't by any means cover all and every single option in the market, but it will cover most common or known equipment, covering from the cheapest second-hand equipment to more of the some mid-tier, but still, it will be more budget-conscious equipment. Today's topic is inspired by Will Marsh's Wheel Buyer's Guide, with a focus more in the low to mid-tier of the market, not just wheels, but also some equipment as well, so this video is made in honor of Will Marsh. As a disclaimer, I have affiliate links to some of the brands mentioned in this guide. Because this video was made in 2021, some details might be wrong due to the nature of the stock shock that's still happening under COVID. Also, these prices will be in GBP. You should have 20 to 50 to convert to euros and 50 to 100 to convert to US dollars. Of course, these prices will fluctuate depending on availability, time of year, and discounts. It can't really be a budget buyer's guide without mentioning the second-hand market. Second-hand equipment can be hit and miss. It can be an effort to filter the lemons from the good stuff out there. The second-hand market does have some incredible offers from time to time, so it's always a good practice to have an eye on it if you are looking for older equipment to save some money by not buying the newest model, or you are trying to find a second-hand deal on equipment that is still sold as new. As always, when buying second-hand, try to find the deals that have more info. Ask for details if you feel something is not there, or simply go to the next one, even if it means you need to wait days or weeks. Second-hand market is not only eBay. Check also Facebook, Craigslist, OLX, or any second market webpage in your country. Having that in mind, the wheels that will dominate the very low budget in the second-hand market will be Logitech's, mainly the Driving Force GT, the Driving Force Pro, or the much preferable Logitech G wheels like the 25, 27, or even the 29. Any of these will be old and might require some maintenance. If you are willing to do some repairs, most of the parts can still be bought and replaced on these wheels, therefore some great deals can be had. Recently, I've had the pleasure to get reacquainted with the Logitech G25, and even in 2020, for the price, it was really a great wheel, but of course, it will be dated compared to the newer Logitechs. It's just something that you need to expect. The Logitech G29 and Trustmaster T150 or TMX also appear in the second-hand market in somewhat quite decent prices. What I would avoid would be the Fanatec CSR wheel. They tend to have a lot of issues, and the older they are, the worse they would be. As for the Fanatec CSR Elite pedals or Club Sport V1 and V2s, they will require probably a new potentiometer set, but those tend to be easy to find and the pedals are somewhat easy to maintain. As the Fanatec CSL Elite pedals or even the Elite wheelbase are being discontinued, I would also look for them if you are not willing to spend a lot of money and you still want to have something that is really good. As both the Fanatec CSL Elite pedals and wheelbase have been discontinued, you can also try to look for the second-hand deals, as the CSL DD is now dropping the prices of these wheels and pedals quite a lot. One thing worth noticing is that there's a lot of choice in the second-hand market, but there's also a lot of choice for spare parts or even upgrades. Some companies use sites like eBay to sell upgrade springs, rubbers, more resilient parts, or even Hall sensors for potentiometers for currently sold pedal sets. If you are tight and on the budget, the place to look is really the second-hand market. The budget bundles at around 100 and below don't really offer much choice. The choice available is not something I would recommend anyways. This price point is dominated by the Hori, which has a couple of choices of bundles that come with wheel and pedals, the Overdrive and the Apex. There's also a Mario Kart edition for the Switch. But at this point, you'll be paying for the wheel and pedals that don't have a lot of features and the quality isn't really that good. To this group, you can also add the Trustmaster T80. In this case, we're talking about a very entry-level wheel with generally just a centering spring force, no force feedback, just 270 degrees of rotation. The pedals will be very soft too, so you'll get very little control of them. Though it must be said, in a pinch they do generally the job, even if at a very low immersion level, and they can be used with no problem on a desk for light use. They are also directed to more casual titles like Forza and the likes. You can sim race in them, but your money is better spent in other choices. For very little more, all things considered, you can have a better deal with a wheel with more features and with a better resale value too. I would say avoid this tier unless you really don't want anything more. At the price point of 100 to 250, it's where the sim racing equipment starts to become really exciting. In reality, most of these bundles at this price range provide basically the last wheels that you really need, because there's a difference between wanting and needing. This is also the reason why I say avoid the tier below this. Starting with the T150 or Thrustmaster T150, it comes with two different choices of pedals. The regular T150 that comes with the 2-pedal set, and then the Pro. The T150 is an older wheel now, and it's being replaced, albeit at the higher price point, by the new T248. It's a hybrid drive wheel, so it uses a pulley and a gear system and provides a quite decent force feedback for the price. The pedals on the regular version are very soft, and I would recommend going to the Pro version as you'll get the clutch. The downside of this offer is that you really can't hard mount it on a rig. You can of course fix it to it, but this wheel is more to be used on a desk. The other option at this price point is another great one, which is the Logitech G29. It's arguably a better choice, a little better one in my opinion. It has a smoother drive, really decent pedals, and especially a very good construction compared to the T150. It feels better in the hands with the advantages of having a lot of buttons to choose from. The Xbox version, the G9 wouldn't be my choice because the number of buttons are decreased. Between both choices, it really depends what type of objectives you have in the future. Pedals are, in my opinion, the most critical component to get performance in if force feedback is delivered in a decent way like these wheels do. If you want to buy one thing and don't ever upgrade ever, I would say the T150 Pro might have the slight edge because of the pedals. They are so much better than the Logitech pedals. It comes with beefier springs and also with the fantastic brake mod, the conical brake mod that increases the braking force and makes the brake feel really good, in which for that I would recommend to mount this on a wheel stand or on a rig. If you want to have a better wheel knowing that you have to upgrade the pedals in the future, the G29 would be a better choice for me. The force feedback is smoother, the wheel feels faster, and there's more and more varied buttons. Because these two wheels have decent pedals, a quite decent force feedback, more wheel rotation, and don't have a centering spring force made from bungees like the T80 has, spending a little more will provide more longevity, more immersion, more excitement when driving. Even if they aren't as technically evolved as some wheels in terms of features and details like for example direct drives do, in terms of space, in my experience, they can match it. The limiting factor will always be the pedal set. If you are looking to start, look at these, because if you decide to leave, the resale value is also there, maybe a little more in the Logitech. If you're liking this topic and you find this video useful, press that subscribe button. At the 250 mark, it's where the bundles start to become more serious business. The bundles at this price point will have more flexibility, will generally have a better set of pedals but not load cells, and will have a lot of more features. The lower end of this price point starts with more or less the updated versions of the budget bundles we've talked before. The G923 for less than 300, it's an updated wheel but doesn't have any features worthwhile, the price difference from the G29 from what I've experienced. The pedals have a different spring, the drive is somewhat smoother, featuring a haptic feedback called True Force. This new feature only appears in a few titles, but if I'm honest, it's not really worth the price difference. The next one in the list hasn't been released at the time of making this video, which is the Thrustmaster 248, which is an hybrid drive upgrade to the T150 with an all-new design. The pedals seem like a non-load cell version of the TLCM, but at this point any recommendation cannot be done as they are not seen in shops right now. Until the new Thrustmaster starts selling, I would say that the real choices at this price point start with the T300 RS. The T300 base, just like the T150, has two options for the pedals. The very bad with the RS one, and the much better ones, the RS GT version. There are also a few other flavors of the T300 base with different wheels like Ferrari. Basically, this shows one of the strengths of the T300 base, which is the changeable steering wheels, and there are a few on the Trustmaster ecosystem from round to formula wheels. The T300 is an older wheel in the market and will be roughly around 300 to 400 pounds. That will give you a really interesting performance, a well-detailed force feedback, and a motor powerful enough for all use cases including drift. I'd avoid the RS and go for any T3PA equipped T300s like the GTs. The T300 has been around for a while and much like the Logitech wheels for good reasons. The price tends to be right and give you lots of features like interchangeable wheels, a decent enough force feedback, enough strength, and if you have a budget that fits it, it's generally a really good choice. At over 500 and under 1000, things change significantly. Bundles of this price exist, but there's an argument that on this price point you could start looking towards other solutions like mixing and matching between companies, or you could buy non-bundle solutions. Starting with the T300 Big Brother, the TS, there's a bundle called the Competition Mod sitting at around 650 that will give you a TS wheelbase with quite decent 6 Nm of torque, a sparkle wheel, and a set of T3PA pedals. With 50 to 100 more, you can get the larger brother, the just released TGT2 with 8 Nm, which has a far smoother drive, a wheel with more buttons, and some big transducer on the back for Gran Turismo Sport alone. While these two wheels are good in their own right as they have a good amount of torque, options, and an actually decent ecosystem, they do not have load cell pedals, so the price is at the point where these bundles could have a better value. And in this case, looking at an item per item basis, even slightly more expensive ones could result in a better choice. In this case, I would start by looking at lower-end direct drives, mainly two that have a lot of attention lately, namely the CSLDD and the Simagic Alpha Mini. The CSLDD will have two versions, a 5Nm one for 350 and an 8Nm one for 480. The wheel is by all means excellent, there's lots of detail and force for what I consider to be a reasonable amount of money. The other advantages, and this is also in relation to the Simagic, is that Fanatec has quite a large ecosystem with lots of choices of affordable wheels for the base as well. The Simagic Alpha Mini, and by the way the M10, have more torque at 10 Nm, and they have a somewhat same price as the CSLDD, 450 for the Mini, and at the moment I can find the M10 for 400. The Mini has had great reviews for excellent fidelity and great force feedback. The downside will be the price of the ecosystem, as the wheels tend to be 500 or more. At that point you can spec the CSLDD, buy pedals and buy a wheel, while the Alpha still needs a pedal set. Bundles are great to get you in, but sometimes having the flexibility is fantastic, at least I think, even if it costs a little bit more. Even so, there are some great budget choices for quite decent pieces of hardware. Say what you will about the plastic construction and the fake knobs of the Ferrari F1 wheel, but at 150 pounds or so, it brings so many buttons and even a couple of thumb rotaries, it's not even funny. With 11 buttons, 2 separate D-pads on the PC, pivoted paddle shifters, and a couple of rotaries, it's a really good piece of hardware. Trustmaster offers a huge range of generally affordable wheel add-ons, but from that range, that one and the Round RS are definitely my favorites. On the Fanatec side of things, the hardware gets a little more expensive. The comparable wheel to the Ferrari is the McLaren, which does not offer as many buttons, but does the job, and I think it's better constructed. The WRC is the new P1 that has been updated with the CSL quick release. The Fanatec ecosystem has more wheels, but they are more outside of the budget range. An option for most ecosystem is to mod the wheels hub to install new wheel types, connect a new quick release, or even connect a compatible hub. Some solutions can be affordable, some others will require an expensive solution. Pedals are for me the most important piece of equipment in the rig. They are what will make the lap times, as most of the fine-tuning of the movement of the car is actually handled by the throttle, but especially by the brake, believe it or not. I've done a video months ago where I demonstrated that in terms of outright pace, the G93 could be faster than a DD1 as long as the pedals were good. In that regard, pedals for me should have a load cell. If not possible, they should at least have a good progressive spring or rubber. In that case, the Thrustmaster T3PA are basically a place to start, as it comes with the conical brake mod. This brake mod makes braking really consistent and reliable for a non-load cell, but if I'm honest, I would still go with the load cells. In the Thrustmaster ecosystem, the TLCM has the load cell, and the brake pedal can be customized with different springs. The other options are on Fanatec for budget-ish price. Fanatec, as of the moment of writing this script, has somewhat of a limiting choice. It has the old CSL Elites, but the load cell isn't available yet, so the second-hand market could be an option for the older Elites. These pedals are really good for the budget, and I've used them for about 2 years. At $99 for an older 2-pedal set with potentiometer versus the new CSL at $80, the choice for me would be the second one. But once again, the load cell isn't available at the moment, and I'm not sure how it's going to be because it will have a new design. Eventually, it will be reviewed in the channel, so press that subscribe button in order to keep up to date. The CSL base is a 2-pedal set, and if you want to expand with the clutch pedal, you can bring the price up to $129. The foam provided is a little softer than the T3PA conical brake mod, but between the two, at roughly the same price, it will be a case of reliability for the CSL, as it has Hall sensors versus a better feeling brake pedal of the T3PA. The other choice, it just goes outside a little bit of the budget choices for at least a set of pedals, which will be the Fanatec V3s at $359. But being totally honest, these require the brake performance kit, which will bring then the price closer to $400. If you need to mount any of these, there are choices beyond the desk, if you have the space or more especially the funds. There are choices like wheel stands or sim rigs. Wheel stands have the edge on making everything more compact at the expense of not being as rigid, and the chair might not be the best. There are really many choices out there, and some of them are on the market for years, like the Wheelstand Pro V2s. These are basically a tubular design that can have wheels and pedals mounted to it. For such a low space footprint, it's not exactly a bad piece of kit. I've used one for years, and for the price of about 90 euros, there's nothing more that can be asked of it. It has an add-on for shifters that makes the platform more stable, and if you want to, you can even use these to play flight simulators. There are other choices, for example with the GT Omega and knockoffs with the classic wheel stand or the Apex, or even SimLab as a wheel stand at around 190 euros. One of the GT Omega wheel stands, like the SimLab WS Pro, can be converted to a sim rig of sorts, but in total honesty, I would have either a sim rig or a wheel stand, not something in between. Now for the weirder but still really popular and useful choices are the Playseats and Next Level Racing hybrid systems, which are the Playseats Challenges and the GT Lights. At under 200, they tend to be really good choices for less powerful wheels, and they can provide a lawn chair type of seat with a place for wheels and pedals. This choice tends to be quite practical because the footprint will be very compact. You have a seat and then you can just store away your equipment. Lastly, on sim rigs, choices are going to be little. Under 300s, there are still a few that will provide rigidity to your setup. A great way to save money while doing an extruded aluminum setup is to get a pre-made plan and then buy the parts as you need them from a company called Motetes. If you want one already pre-cut, SimHound has one going for less than 300s. Extruded aluminum rigs can be modified as you seem fit, adding any parts to it. And on metal rigs, Simatic released the K3 as a successor of the K2. I've used the K2 for a year and my current one is a K2R, so I can vouch for them even on higher level equipment such as RX drives. One last choice for sim rigs, at least on the budget sense, is the RSR21. It's a plywood made rig that likely would never be on your radar. I've tried one and it's actually pretty nice, it's super solid. as solid as any extruded aluminum rigs that I've tried. It's also compatible with everything in the market. The thing with sim rigs is that the rig itself isn't really the most expensive thing. Adding all the accessories such as the seat, the monitor stand, and anything you need to have for your shifters or whatever, these accessories will significantly increase the price, so keep that in mind when shopping for rigs. As always, budget sim racing is more about budgeting than budget itself. It's very easy to blow it if you're not careful, as it is somewhat easy enough to understand what is actually needed and then being under budget. It's good to look at these types of lists and try to understand what you want to really upgrade, but always remember that you don't need any equipment besides what you already have as long as it works. Now, as for this list cannot be a living one, as the sim racing landscape changes somewhat year on year. This list will maybe require a yearly update going forward, but to help, leave in the comments your opinions on equipment that I haven't mentioned and you think they are worthwhile considerations for this topic. I would like once again to pay tribute to the late Will Marsh, as this video is inspired by his own video that he released last year. If you enjoyed this, press like and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.